Hi everyone, welcome to Football-Oranje. It's podcast 83. I'm here, Mike's here, and we're going to be talking about the Netherlands' Euro 2020 announcement. The squad is out for the tournament. There's some surprises in there. We can't wait to discuss who's in and who's out. So if you're wanting to get involved in the comments, do let us know right now what you're thinking of the Netherlands squad. And by the time we're talking about it, we can get your comments up on screen. But also today, we've had the Eredivisie final day. So we're going to be talking about the results from the final day and our team of the season for the Eredivisie. And again, if you want to get involved in that, do put in your comment, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching afterwards. You're listening to us on YouTube, iTunes or SoundCloud. You can see us if you watch on YouTube, but we're available on all three platforms. SoundCloud's a place to go if you want to download our podcast and listen to us offline. The only thing left to say is we've still got the Football-Oranje wristbands that look like this. If you want to get yourself one before Euro 2020 starts, they are in the YouTube description and pinned to the Twitter page, Football-Oranje. Now, we probably should start with the Netherlands announcement, Mike. The squad is out, the provisional squad. And Ryan Babel, after all of this time, probably the big story, really. The fact that he doesn't even make the provisional squad. And Frank de Boer even said last week that he was probably going to put him in there to be that sort of experience in the back room and there for the player support. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we've all been waiting for him to get dropped, which surprised me massively because of de Boer's comments last week. He basically said how important he was for the dressing room, and it seemed that he was saying that he'd come into form for Galatasaray, scored in a big match, and it seemed to get certain that he was going to be on the plane, and then for de Boer just to suddenly drop him out and then come out and say that, I think in his explanation, he was saying that he was never going to pick him, so he didn't want to bring him into the provisional squad, have him turn up to the training camp and to have the belief that he was going to make the squad and then cut him right before the end. So he did it this way by phoning him up and telling him that he's not part of it ahead of time. I think it's the right decision. I think it's an obvious decision. I think there's wingers that are in much better form. But yeah, it just seems a bit odd that it come out this time if he's going to defend him all the way up to now. And you know, Babel's been part of the squad ever since Koeman took over. And for Babel, you know, it's got to be a bit heartbreaking that he was in the squad all along. You know, everyone talked about how determined he was to make the squad, and you know, it's going to be his final hurrah in the big tournament, and then just before the end to get dropped. You know, he's got to be absolutely gutted. But as a Netherlands fan, I think it's by far the right decision. You know, if Netherlands are losing a game coming into the last 5 to 10 minutes, who would I rather have on the bench? Would I rather have Ryan Babel or Cody Gakpo or Steven Bergwijn, even an Anwar El Ghazi? You know, it's night and day. It wouldn't be Ryan Babel. So I think it's the right decision by de Boer, but I think it's just taken a long time for him to realise that, and it's come just before the tournament starts, which it's got to be tough to take for him himself.
I didn't think that Frank de Boer had that sort of surprise in him. The fact that he would have this consistent selection and talk about how important these players were to the squad. He did mention when he first came in that you have to get in the squad on merit. And yet he pulls out this absolute surprise right before the end, right before they're off to go to the tournament. And more to that, he selected a few surprise players around the edges of the team who might still make the final squad, especially with it being expanded to 26 players from 23. A question from Abdul, who listens to our podcast quite regularly. Thanks, Abdul. He says that de Boer insisted to the last moment that he needed Babel. What happened? And I put this out on Twitter that Ryan Babel, maybe it was him that decided to not be in the squad and not Frank de Boer's decision because of the criticism that he was getting. The fact that no one wanted him in the squad, that maybe he felt that pressure of needing to give up his place to somebody else. Maybe not the fact that he thinks that other players are better than him, but maybe that he was feeling a bit of criticism from a lot of people that were looking from the outside in and wondering why he was being selected.
Well, for me, I would say that, you know, Babel's probably one of these players that believes in himself, and as I said, it's his last time to be at a major tournament, and as a footballer, if you're going to get selected for a major tournament, then you're going to want to go. and he was going to be selected, judging by De Boer's comments. And I think that the one way he can prove the critics wrong is by scoring a goal at the Euros or doing something important on the pitch. I don't think Babel is someone that really listens to criticism. Throughout his career, he's made some strange decisions for clubs. You know, he's gone to the Middle East during his career when he was nearing his prime sort of age range. He went to the Middle East and he admitted himself that he took the money. So I think he's not that type of player that really listens to what other people think. And I don't think he would have been swayed by, you know, anyone online on Twitter telling him that he didn't really deserve his spot. I think he would have believed in himself and went there and tried to prove everyone wrong. Especially with being the HA is probably his last tournament, I think he would have wanted to take that chance. So I think it's come from De Boer, and I agree. I didn't think he had it in him. I don't think he had that ruthless streak of cutting someone. It's not. I think that De Boer maybe, you know, we've not seen what went on in the training beforehand. You know, in the media, you know, De Boer can talk him up, but then, you know, maybe he's starting to listen to the fact that, you know, Gakpo's a better player. You know, he's seen El Ghazi performing week in, week out for Aston Villa. And he's decided to make the cut. He's decided to make a tough decision, which I think out of all the times that we criticise Frank de Boer, I think this is one of the times we actually have to say, you know, well done for making a decision like this, because he's done it. And it's not just Babel, it's Calvin Stengs as well, who's his son-in-law. I mean, he's been in the squad all this time. He's practically family for him, and he's cut him as well. And it's rightly so, because he's just not been in form recently for AZ. So you've got to say that De Boer's making the tough decisions. He's making the right ones. And for all that we criticise De Boer for, you know, this is the right things that he's doing. And like, for me overall, I'm happy with the squad the way it is. And I think it's going to be tough for him to decide on a few of the positions that he's selected players for. But overall, I think he's made the right decisions in the right positions. And minus maybe one or two players, you know, we can make an argument for, say, Noah Lang, but, you know, his form sort of dropped off recently for Club Brugge. If he was scoring week in, week out recently, then you'd say he might be in there. You know, I guess Dan Juma is one that you'd put forward, but he's performing in the Championship. Maybe De Boer has decided for El Ghazi instead. I know you're not a big a fan of El Ghazi, even though he's an Aston Villa player, but, you know, he's probably been in the best form of his career since he left Ajax this season, judging by how many goals he scored in the Premier League. So he deserves a shot. And I guess for dropping Babel, if he says he's not in form, then, you know, you got to wonder why somebody like Steven Bergwijn is in there, or even a Donny van de Beek. I mean, I saw Johan Derksen, the Dutch journalist, say in the midweek that van de Beek should be the one that gets cut come the end of the squad because he hasn't shown anything for Manchester United. I can't see that happening, but, you know, we'll see what happens when, you know, the squad meets up on the 24th, I think it is, for 2 days. Everyone gets a chance to impress, and then we'll see what it is that's named the final squad, because you never know. Frank de Boer might just be teasing us all, and then come the 26th, Ryan Babel's name's in that final squad. But yeah, I have to say I'm happy with the decisions that De Boer's made, and I think it's a good squad. The only one thing that I would say to look out for is if Arjen Robben does perform for Groningen in the next two playoff games, if Groningen get past Utrecht and then Feyenoord or Sparta in the final, and Robben scores in both games, gives a couple of assists and make a late charge as that dressing room influence that Ryan Babel said to be. But yeah, overall, I'm happy with the squad.
Yeah, there's actually have a quick look at it. I mean, I was going to bring it up on screen, but I think most people have actually seen the squad. There's not a lot of surprises, but I think some of the biggest ones are that, first of all, Virgil van Dijk isn't making the squad and he's not in it. So he's out injured, and it's expected that Wijnaldum will be the captain for the tournament. But Cody Gakpo's there in the provisional squad. We've mentioned there Anwar Ghazi, and yeah, I've mentioned it before on the podcast. I'm an Aston Villa fan. I watch him play a lot, and he flits. He's rather inconsistent. He goes really invisible in games, but the thing that you can credit him for is he comes up for a goal just when you need him. He's quite a predictable player. Comes on his left foot quite a lot. likes a shot, but he's trying to get into the box more and support. The striker is trying to get back and defend more on the wing. Villa haven't been the best of form the second half of the season, but he's still someone who's played all right. Like I say, he's good one game, pretty poor the next. And I wonder whether he could be a wild card of a tournament, because just like Steven Berghuis, he's a confidence player. And if you can get the best out of him, he can be used definitely in the tournament to the Spurs' advantage. I reckon he's like the sort of backup left winger. If Memphis is going to play in the left wing, I imagine that El Ghazi would be like a bit of a backup, because they're quite similar players when they play from the left wing, but obviously Memphis is the better one. The reason why I'm apprehensive about El Ghazi is that normally Jack Grealish will play in the left wing for Villa, and you think that England have got to play like him, and he wouldn't be starting matches for England. And his replacement El Ghazi, who I don't rate as much at all, and yet he could be an option for the Netherlands. I think it shows the difference in strength between the two teams. And going into the tournament, I still worry about if the Netherlands were to play like a powerhouse side. I mean, that's obvious, right? They're obviously the stronger teams, but I think they're going to come really unstuck against a France or a Portugal or an England, for example, which could be their downfall. But anyway, I think that's the conversation of the day. I mean, looking at the squad, I'm glad to see that Koopman is in there, Kramberg, obviously, and Timber. So there's some nice players in there, but obviously some will be dropped. Who do you think there, Mike? I mean, and obviously the biggest one, I've just seen his name, Wout Weghorst. Which of those surprise names do you think will actually make the final cut? The fact that Babel's out the squad and Weghorst is in it, De Boer's listening, does that mean that Weghorst is surely needed at the tournament and will be a striker that is used a lot?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, do we take De Boer's words last week as gospel now that Babel's been dropped? But he did say basically that Weghorst is on his way to the Euros, and I can see him going. I can see all four strikers going. I can see Weghorst and Luke de Jong being there, Malen being there, and Memphis, with Memphis being an option for the wing as well as Malen, even though if it didn't work out last time. And then when they're wanting to switch up formation, he has to decide between Weghorst and de Jong for that central striker role, and they'll get the chance to compete against each other in training and see who's the best. In terms of who's going to get cut, sadly, St. Justa's been called up. I can't see him making the squad. I think if Timber's in there instead of the under-21s, I can see Timber actually going to the Euros, because the under-21 squad will have to be announced before the training camp. So if Timber is going to be at a training camp instead of being with the under-21s, then I can see Timber making it, and Cody Gakpo as well. I think both of them will eventually make the squad. In terms of who's getting dropped, you get made a prediction that Bezo will get dropped, the goalkeeper. Then he has to decide between two right backs to get dropped, and I think that my mind switches back and forth. But from what De Boer said last week, Dumfries is his first choice and Tete is his backup, because Tete can be a more defensive right back against stronger nations, and he sees Karsdorp and Hateboer as more attacking options. So I think Dumfries will go as first option, Tete will be second, and the other two will get dropped. And I get a lot of people saying Karsdorp's the best option, but I think De Boer would have go with what he knows. He's going to go with Dumfries. I can see Van Aanholt getting dropped, St. Just getting dropped, Vilhena getting dropped. At this point, Vilhena just seems to be one of these players that keeps getting added to the list as a name just to bolster the squad, but I just can't see him getting picked. Krasnodar have been horrible recently in Russia, and until Vilhena gets that move back to mainland Europe, I can't see him getting picked in the squad. So that means I think that Koopman has a good chance to make in the squad. And up front, I think Promise will get dropped. And then I think it is a coin toss between El Ghazi and Bergwijn. Yeah. I think that it's whoever impresses De Boer the most in training will get the nod to go.
The thing that gets me with the Netherlands this summer is the attacking play kind of depends on how well the wingers can support Memphis. I think defensive-wise, they should be okay. Frankie's in midfield, so that's really solid. But it's then, how is that front three going to work? Is it going to be Luke de Jong or Weghorst as striker and the wingers around it? None of those wingers really jump out at you. And Cody Gakpo is the one who I think we like the most. But is the most unproven at a top level. So who can be that starting winger? We had a question about who would be starting 11. I think most of it picks itself. It's just those wingers. How important do you think they are to a success this summer?
It is crucial because you look at those games that Netherlands have in the group stages and you go, Netherlands should win those games. You just need to know what, I think the indication will be when Netherlands play Scotland, we'll see what de Boer has in mind, because if he goes 4-3-3 with Memphis on the left, that's how Netherlands are going to line up come the games against Ukraine, Austria and North Macedonia, because it's similar sort of opposition. If he goes with Memphis on the left and a strong striker up front, then that gives the indication that he thinks that that's what's going to happen in the group stages. And you got to think that Memphis will play left, Berghuis will play right, and then it'll be Luuk de Jong unless Weghorst impresses him during training as the starting lineup in the Euros. And that's what I would predict at the moment. I think he will go 4-3-3 with Memphis on the left. But if he does go Memphis through the middle, then it is a coin toss because those wingers, none of them step out. You got Berghuis who did well during the last international period, but he's not top European level winger. I think he is a bit predictable at times. He scores a lot of his goals for Feyenoord from penalties. And he is the biggest influence for them. But can he be a player that wins Netherlands the Euros? I'm not so sure about that. The only one out of all those wingers that has something about him is Gakpo. Because he can pick up the ball and run at people, and none of the rest of the wingers, in my opinion, can. Maybe El Ghazi can by cutting inside. But Bergwijn, I think, is a predictable winger who's not in form. Promise is limited. So yeah, the winger situation for me is difficult, and that's why I think he will push Memphis out there, because he needs somebody out there to influence games. And I think that's where he'll stick Memphis and have either Weghorst or Luuk de Jong through the middle, and then if that doesn't work, he'll bring on somebody like Malen to have a bit more pace up front, and I think that'll be his plan B. But I do think what the squad has shown is that de Boer has options, so he can go 4-3-3 with Memphis through the middle and with pacey attack having Malen and Berghuis, or he can switch up and go with a strong striker up front, whether that's Weghorst or de Jong. I think this formation is interchangeable. The amount of defenders he has also means we can go 5-3-2 and have three centre backs, because there's so many centre back options. And then you could have Memphis up front with Luuk de Jong. It could work. Long balls forward. Luuk de Jong flicks them on for the pace of Memphis. So where versatility is key, I think de Boer does have a lot of options in the squad to pick a formation to suit his needs in the game. Against tougher nations, going either 5-3-2 or going with Memphis for the middle. Against smaller nations, going with a more centralised striker like a Luuk de Jong or Wout Weghorst. I think de Boer has those options. I think the games against Scotland, and so I'm having a mind blank on who the second friendly game is running up to it, but I think those games will be key to deciding what his formation is going against those games against Ukraine.
I'm just going to search that one up because I have in my head it's Georgia.
Georgia, that's it. Yeah, it's Georgia. Yeah, so similar opposition to the face in the group stages. So if he lines up in those games with Memphis on the left, we know that's going to be the starting formation.
Mm-hmm. The starting 11 will soon know, they're from those friendlies, and they're against teams that are a bit weaker than the Netherlands. So how much can you learn from that? The three sort of group games, you'd expect the Netherlands to have a lot of possession, and the teams will be defending to try and get a point or three if they can nick a goal. But it's when you get to those last stages, again, like I spoke about earlier, let me just get your quick thoughts on that. Like, what are you thinking later on the tournament? How seriously can you take the Netherlands against those bigger teams? And I know that we'll be previewing a lot more of the games, the tournament itself, pretty soon on our podcast, but just a little look ahead. This is not the group that we're concerned about. It's later on in the competition, right?
Yeah, but I mean, that's the problem with Netherlands, and that's why we didn't make the last World Cup or the last Euros, because they went, this group's easy. But, on paper it is, and I do expect that they will win this group. And then getting through the later tournament, you got to hope that they don't get the third place team from the Germany group. If they get one of the lesser third place teams, then that's you in the quarterfinals. And it's hard because in the quarterfinals to the final, anything can happen. Things get edgy. Teams come up against each other that sort of nobody wants to lose an inch. And if it comes down to defence, then Netherlands have a strong defence. Whereas, I'd say that De Vrij and De Ligt can defend against most of the strikers at this tournament very well. So that gives me confidence. But whether Netherlands have an attack or the pace in midfield to trouble one of these top nations is a big concern for me. And I think, if you come up against somebody like Belgium, France, Spain, England to a lesser extent, then Netherlands could struggle to really hurt them. But you got to have some confidence. The squad has uplifted my confidence because I think that the players that get selected are ones that are on form, and that's what I've always asked for. So going into the tournament, after the last international games, I was quite pessimistic. But at the moment, my excitement is growing, and I think Netherlands can go far. My head still says quarterfinals, but my heart is saying semi-finals. Then anything can happen. But just avoiding a tough, winner. We're going to win it. That's it. I'm saying it now. But it all depends on who they get in the second round. If they slip up against Ukraine and end up finishing second and get a tough draw, could go out in the last 16. If they finish top of the group and get third place from Germany, Portugal, then that's also tough, and they could go out in the second round. But if they get a favourable draw in the second round and they finish top, then they could go anywhere.
I was actually previewing the group for the website, and I saw the quality of the three teams, and I was thinking, this group should be no problem. If it is a problem, then I don't think they get anything further than the last 16, because the fact that if they can't beat Ukraine, Austria, and North Macedonia, having seen the quality of the three teams, then they don't deserve to win the Euros. But it's those bigger teams. I just think that there's going to be too much for this team, which has some quality but isn't top quality. And unless the Netherlands pull off a Greece, their defense is pretty good, nicking goals. You never know. We've had some comments coming live, and we're getting people getting carried away. Jason says my heart is saying champions, of course. And we had a comment here just saying that we're looking forward to the stream. That there were only 5 people watching live at the time, but I've somehow got more than people watching along. It just doesn't make any sense. But don't worry, we do get plenty of people listening along on all platforms. We end up averaging about 1,000 people listening each time. So if you want us to keep growing up over that, do keep sharing the podcast with the people who you know are going to listen to it. And we're getting more comments coming in. Another one here saying that it could be the Netherlands against Portugal in the second round. Could well be if they win their group and they face a third place team from the group of death. Very unlikely, but I have mentioned it a few times. It's going to happen, isn't it? And Jay's saying that don't forget North Macedonia beat Germany. That is true. The North Macedonians can't be taken lightly. But looking at the quality of those three teams on paper, the Netherlands should be beating them if they're playing like as they should be in the tournament and playing well. They're not really big banana skins, so that's going to come back and haunt me. I think now I've said that. We need to move on to talk about the Eredivisie. The season's over, and there were many players that have been impressing in the Eredivisie that will be playing for the national team this summer. One of them is David Klaassen. I went for him in my team of the season, Mike, because I think David Klaassen has scored many, many important goals this season. I think the stat goes as something like he's scored 10 times this season for Ajax, which would put them into a winning position. 9 times of those were a 1-0 goal. So he's a really important player to have an attacking midfield. And he's really stepped it up for Ajax and the Dutch national team this season.
Yeah, I think I will hold my hands up and say that I criticise Ajax for signing him last summer. I thought it was backwards move. They're re-signing a player from their youth academy who isn't really going to take them forward. And we're still on a high from them reaching the semi-final of the Champions League. We should be going for players that are better than David Klaassen. But yeah, he's been excellent for them this season, and he does always pop up with those crucial goals. I'd even say This is controversial, but in the formation, he suits Ajax's formation more than I'd say Donny van de Beek did. I think he scores more crucial goals. He gets in those positions a bit better. Um, and yeah, I think he's been excellent this season. He might not have made my team of the season, but I think he's been a great signing for them, and he's complemented the midfield very well. He is still a concern in terms of if he makes the Netherlands squad and makes the starting positions of his speed. Um, but I think in terms of work effort and popping up for a goal in crucial times, he's excellent for Ajax, and in the Eredivisie, he's a class act for this league, and I think he made the right choice by coming back to Ajax, because this is where he really belongs. This is where he shines, and there's nothing wrong with admitting that you're best at Ajax and not seeking that move abroad again. And I hope that Davy Klaassen sort of stays now for with Ajax for maybe the rest of his career. Um, and just continues to be important for them, because he is, and he's a good player in his formation. He's always popping up with crucial goals. He's even, yeah, I think he's definitely surpassed my expectations from him.
More and more players are starting to do that. They're starting to stay in the Eredivisie longer and come back to the Eredivisie instead of for a long time as well in their 20s. It's really good for the league that that's happening. We spoke about 5 or 6 years ago about this kind of thing. Probably the first conversation we had when I first joined you at Football-Oranje, Mike, was that we need more footballers to stay in the Eredivisie into the primes of their careers, because it's going to really make the league and the national team grow. And how important has it been that Klaassen's come back to the Eredivisie, and this form has got him a spot in the Dutch national team squad because of that form he's got at Ajax. So I mean, like in my Eredivisie team of the season, though, I have to say I went for quite a few Dutch players, and a handful of them play for the national team too. Really good going into the Euros. Gone for Klaassen in my midfield. No, you haven't, Mike. But I've also put Turncoat Miners in my midfield. 15 goals in 30 games. I know a lot of them came from the set pieces, but he's been brilliant. I don't think we need to talk too much about Coat Miners because he's been just that good, and we've spoken about him enough times. And to complete my midfield, seems like we're starting in my midfield, just a bit of a different way of starting off a team of the season. I have Rivalut in there as well. 16 goals and 7 assists for Heracles. Average team, but he really lifted it up. Who did you go for in your midfield?
So the same with Luton and Koopmeiners. I think that Rive Luton is one of these players that came through the PSV academy, and everyone thought he's going to be one of these sort of journeyman players when he went to Italy, and it didn't really work out there. And he's come back to the Eredivisie where Heracles. He's just going to be one of these sort of players that goes up and down. He's at Excelsior for a wee while, and he was playing in the second division. I mean, this season he's been outstanding, and I think he's proved this season that he has the ability to play for a top Eredivisie club, whether that's going to the next level of going to a Vitesse or an AZ. We'll need to wait and see, but I think he could handle the AZ sort of level, and be a utility player for them, maybe off the bench, and an option for them. So I think he's been excellent. And the third one I went with is Ryan Gravenberch, because I think for an 18-year-old, he's turned 19 today, but for an 18-year-old to play the way he has all season, I think he's been incredible. And he's one of the players that I hope makes the Netherlands squad. I think he will. I think he's there because he's going to be in the squad. I think he's just a fantastic talent, and we're seeing one of the best Dutch midfielders there's going to be for the next 5 to 10 years. This season, playing week in, week out for Ajax, and he's a boy that's got his head screwed on, because where we saw it would go a bit downward for Bazoer, he's coming out and saying that he wants to stay at Ajax next season. He's not making any grumblings that he wants to go. Even though all the big clubs are getting linked to him, he's saying, "No, I'm staying in Amsterdam. That's where I want to be." So he seems to be level-headed. He's heading into the Netherlands squad now, and he's been important for Ajax week in, week out. He's been undroppable for Ten Hag. So I think he deserves a place in my team of the season.
Yeah, he's worlds apart from Bazoer in terms of his attitude. Gravenberch's just got such a great attitude. And you have to, considering he's been playing at an upper age group throughout all of the youth teams at Ajax in the Netherlands, mainly because of his physique, because he's quite a big guy. He though has actually proven that he's an excellent footballer, whatever level he's played at. He wasn't 14 playing like the under 17s or something. He's
Mhm.
done that through most of his career. It's immense, and he's still doing it now on a senior stage at 18, now 19. He was on my bench though. I have to say for my team of the season because he has dropped off a little bit the second half of the season. I just had to pick Vlut because of the goals that he scored. But yeah, Havenberg's probably going to be in my team of the season next season for sure. Other Dutch players I went for. Let's go to the defence, shall we? I went for Owen Wijndal at left back. He's played every single minute of the Eredivisie season this season. Only him and Ko Etakora have only going to done that. And he has come out himself and said he's the best left back in the Netherlands. Is he, Mike? Is he in your team too?
Yeah, he's in my team, and I would agree with Wijndal. I think he is the best left back in the Netherlands. I do think he still has to work a bit on his production level going forward, but I think defensively he's strong. He does have a great partnership with Carlson on the left of the AZ attack, and yeah, I think that he is for me the best left back in the Netherlands. I think his head has been turned, I think, by the interest from Ajax recently. I think his comments recently just about it seem to indicate that he would be open to if they come calling once Tagliafico goes. But yeah, he's been outstanding this season. There's a reason why he's played every minute for AZ, and when Koopmeiners isn't there, he's captain. I think he was influential in this AZ side, and I think if you're going to name two AZ players that are ready for a move abroad or ready for a move up, you'd say Koopmeiners and Wijndal, because Stengs and Boadu have been the two that haven't impressed this season, but Koopmeiners and Wijndal have been the two steady ones that deserve the praise in terms of their Dutch players. I think he's been excellent this season. I think if you've got to mention the left backs in Eredivisie, you got Max. He does okay for PSV. I think he started the season well, but he sort of drifted off a bit. Tagliafico, he's been steady for Ajax, and
don't forget the legendary George Cox.
George Cox, he is coming to my mind as well. I think he's had a great season for Fortuna, and yeah, repping the British region in the Eredivisie, and I think he's had a great season, scoring some fantastic goals as well. But I think Wijndal's been the standout.
Yeah, got to agree. If you like George Cox, go and watch our interview with him. A little plug. We had a couple more comments coming in live that someone thinks that Wijndal is the Zaandam Jordi Alba. Fair comment. He does play like him though. He's a very offensive-minded left back. Great player. And cheers, mate. Some lovely love there for us. One of the people watching live. If you're not watching live, do get involved and comment what your thoughts on the Netherlands squad and your Eredivisie team of the season. We do want to hear from you. And do drop us a like as well if you're enjoying what we're sort of giving to you today. Now, carrying on with the defence. I got a bit of stick on Twitter for this because I went for someone a bit random in defence. This one I didn't get stick for, Richelle Bazur, who's been playing brilliantly at Vitesse all season in that five-man defence at centre-back. But I also put Heerenveen's Pavel Boknevits there because I couldn't really think of a good centre-back to put there apart from Bazur. And I thought Senesi, no, a bit inconsistent second half of the season. Timber hasn't really played enough, but has been impressive. So I put Boknevits in there. He's played, when he's not injured, he's played every single minute for Heerenveen. And he's probably the best of a bad bunch at that club at the moment. He's been steady. He's been great. And I think he had like the most clearances of all the players in the league. I saw that stat. I think you actually put that stat on for Twitter, Mike, a little while ago. For me, made sense to put him in there. Maybe people just didn't consider him. Who did you go for? I'm guessing you didn't go Boknevits as well.
So I got Bazur, but I'm going to make a late change. I was thinking I was going to go with Sandro Martinez, but I've now decided to go with my only PSV player to make my lineup, Boscagli. I think he's had a very steady season in there. You know, coming into the season, I thought he was going to drop out of the squad entirely. I didn't think he was that good. But he's proved me wrong this season in defence and even moving into midfield at times as well. He's been excellent there, so I think he deserves a shout out for his season. I don't think many PSV players deserve a lot of credit for this season. I think that they've sort of stumbled on second spot. I mean, that might be quite harsh on them. I think Gakpo would be the one that deserves the most praise, but he's not in my lineup just because of the other wingers that are there. and Malin, who has done sort of what I expected him to, but not as much. I thought Malin would be top goal scorer because I thought he would get 25 to 30 goal region. But he has missed a lot of chances. I praise Malin a lot, but I do get a lot of comments saying that he does miss chances, and it is true. I think he has missed the most. In terms of taking shots, he's had the second most in the whole league after Tanan. But he's only scored, I think, 19 goals.
Yeah, 19 Eredivisie, but I think, and he's someone who I think that when he goes to a bigger club, he'll have that pressure of knowing that he only gets like 2 chances in a game and he needs to take one of them. At the minute at PSV, he gets umpteen chances, and it's probably not as pressured an environment. But yeah, agree with him being a good player, but not in my front three. And Buscagli, he reminds me of Daley Blint with the way he plays some defence. A great creator from deep. I think halfway through the season, I had him like half team of the season. I didn't go for him at the end, but yeah, someone who I agree has been pretty good for PSV. To complete my back four, went with Lutz Schauer from Feyenoord. I think that he's someone who will be in the Dutch national team squad in future and has impressed me at Feyenoord. One of the very few players at Feyenoord who's played very well this season. And what a development he's made.
Yeah, I think he's been excellent. I think there's a weird period where Dick Advocat decided to drop him for a little while and started playing Newcoop at right back a couple of months ago. It was strange because I think he was one of their best players throughout the season, and Advocat decided to swap him out. Didn't really work and get back in.
Strange decisions most of the season, might say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's time to retire, I think, from club football. But yeah, he has been an outstanding standing right back in the Eredivisie this season. And he should be playing week in, week out when the Netherlands under-21s get together during the last international period at the European Championships. But I think Zeefuik was preferred over him, and Geertruida wasn't even in the original squad until there was an injury. But yeah, I think he's been great. He chips in with goals. He's a threat from set pieces. I think he's strong defensively. He gets up and down that right wing. I think he's just been impressive. I think he said that the right wing of Feyenoord has been the best thing about it this season, and probably only one of the things that deserves praise is Geertruida and Bergus on the right. So I mean, them two as a partnership have been excellent. But yeah, I can see why you've picked him for your right back. I think Dumfries hasn't been consistent enough, and Svensson's been injured in and out of the AZ side. And Ali Daz has been impressive, but not that impressive to name him in the squad. So I went with someone that I think is going to be Netherlands right back within the next couple of years. I think he's that good, and that's Rensch of Ajax. I think he's been a revelation this season coming into the Ajax side, and I think he's going to grow and grow over the next couple of years, and then we're going to see him take the right back slot of the Netherlands going forward. I think I love seeing players like this develop, just coming out of nowhere, really. I know he's always been tipped to be a top talent in the Ajax academy, but with Mizraoui being there at the start of the season, I thought he'd be the starting right back. I know he's had injury problems, but Rensch has come in. He's done excellently, and I don't think he's really put a foot wrong since he's been in the Ajax lineup. And even when he switches to left back, I think he's been excellent as well. So I think he's just so versatile that he can play anywhere across that back line and do a great job. And I think that he is someone that Netherlands say that you've got top talents coming out of Ajax. When you talk about Frenkie de Jong, Donny van de Beek, and Matthijs de Ligt, I got a bit of sticker saying that the new three are Gravenberg, Timber, and Rensch, but I can see all of them being part of the Netherlands squad for years to come because they are that good. And I think Rensch is going to be the next big right back.
It's amazing how these talents just keep coming from Ajax. So watching Dutch football for 10 years, and it still surprises me how quickly they come out and out of nowhere, and suddenly they're Dutch national team players. Someone was very enthusiastic and put in Rensch there in the comments. Another one here. Keep the good work. Thank you very much. And a comment about Kiana Herver, really randomly. How's he doing at Wolves? In 3 words, Mike?
not that great.
Not really playing.
Yeah, I think he went to Wolves thinking he was going to be a starter. Then he went and signed. Is it Semedo from Barcelona, and paid a lot of money for him. And because he's Wolves and they're Portuguese. Of I think he's been not as used as often as he probably thought he was going to be by leaving Liverpool for Wolves. And I know he started last week, and I think when he does start, he does get some praise. But I don't. Have Wolves been that good this season? I've not paid that much attention to him, but I don't think Wolves have been as good as what he thought they were going to be. And he's not played often enough. So I think Hoover's one of these players that everyone thinks is going to be an everyone's right back for years to come, but he needs to get to a club where he actually plays week in, week out. And unfortunately for him, Wolves just wasn't the right decision for this season. Whether he's there next year and plays week in, week out, we'll see. But yeah, he just needs to get game time.
We'll see. As for the season, I'll go into the goalkeeper next. Maduka Okoye was my goalkeeper. 10 clean sheets. Sparta finished 8th in the table. Amazing.
Yeah, he's a cat. He's been outstanding. I think if Sparta one of these teams that started the season really well, dipped off, and we thought, okay, they're going to be half near the bottom, and then just the last few weeks they've just exploded in form again, and they've deservedly take out spot. I think that Okoye is a big reason for that. He makes save after save after save, and I think you're right when the coaches are coming out and saying that Okoye is going to be followed by the big teams. I know Ajax were linked in January, but they've went out and got past Sphere. But I can see him fitting in well at top Eredivisie club. I think part of me thinks that PSV made a bit of a quick move for Drommel when they could have waited, and if Okoye was available, maybe Okoye would have been a better signing.
But it makes a difference.
Yeah, look at what Trent are doing right at the moment, and he's making some errors.
Yeah,
we'll see what he does when he steps up to PSV. Maybe PSV's defense is better than Twente's, so he'll come into it more. Drama's a great shot stopper. You can't take that away from him, but I think Okoye he looks like a top goalkeeper in the making, and I think he's going to be a big club in his career. And right now, Sparta have him, and they're going to make a lot of money from him. Same with, they've got a few good talents there, and Harui's another one that stands out. But Okoye for me is the one that's going to make them quite a bit of cash when he decides to go.
Probably will be this summer. It strikes me as someone who went to Sparta to develop for a year or two and go. Great goalkeeper though. And front three, we talked about Steven Berghuis already. He's in my right wing, 18 goals and 12 assists, just doing the business yet again for Feyenoord. Although he has been quite rash this season, a couple of red cards, which is very strange, and he has lost it. But in terms of attacking play, still very good at Eredivisie level. A left wing, Dusan Tadic, 14 goals, 17 assists, sorry. Brilliant assist provider this season. Always doing it for Ajax. This front three was so easy to pick. I mean, can you guess who the striker is? Georgios Giacomakis. 26 goals, Eredivisie top goal scorer, and the first one ever to be relegated, despite being top goal scorer. But he was just who was anyone scoring goals there? So, yeah. The front three was quite simple to pick, and I'm guessing you agree with that.
Yeah, I've picked the same front three. The only one that could come into it would have been Malin, but like I said, he's not been clinical enough for me. To score that many goals for this VVV side is crazy. And Giacomakis deserves a lot of credit for that. I think if they didn't have him, I mean, they would have been bottom probably with one of the worst team records in Eredivisie history. But yeah, he carried that team this season, and I just wait to see what he's going to be next season if he stays in the Eredivisie with a club from the Netherlands or he goes abroad. I'm interested to see how he develops, because is he just one of these weird Eredivisie strikers that has one of these absolutely outstanding seasons and scores bags of goals, then goes somewhere else and just can't hit a barn door, and then he'll go to a club in England for instance, he'll go to a promoted team. They'll think they're getting the next big striker, and they'll get another Alfonso Alves, and everyone will go, "Oh, that's Eredivisie again." But yeah, we'll see. I think he's a great finisher for the Eredivisie, and then his next move is crucial. I think I saw last week VVV saying they want between 6 and 10 million for him. I think going down that might be a bit of a stretch. I think they'll be lucky to get 3 to 5 now that they've been relegated. But yeah, I think his agent came out and said that there's not interest yet from the Eredivisie. It's more abroad. So we'll see what happens with him. But I think he's had an outstanding season, and he's one of the players from the 2 relegated teams that can hold their heads up high. The other one, actually, I want to make a comment about Milan van Uyk. I've just thought about him. He's had an outstanding season for ADO Den Haag at right back. And he's going to Eredivisie next season. We'll see how he develops, but he's young, fresh. The only ADO Den Haag player that deserves any credit this season. But other two, yeah, Tadic speaks for himself, another outstanding campaign, and Berghuis. I agree, but I mean, playing for Dick Advocat this season must be pretty frustrating, so no wonder he's taken out on the opposition when he gets on the pitch. He's probably seen Brian Winston starting up front every week with him and just deciding to kick everything around him. But yeah, Berghuis is another player that I think he's going to leave Feyenoord this summer, and the Euros are going to be an absolute fantastic shop window for him. If he's starting for the Netherlands and he performs well, big clubs can come in from. If he goes to the Euros and doesn't perform, then maybe he'll stay at Feyenoord again next season. But yeah, I've seen loads of clubs being linked to Berghuis from Spain, from Italy with Roma, to even Ajax were linked a couple of weeks ago to taking him because he's going to be available for as little as 4 million, which is crazy for someone that can do what he can do when he's on form. But yeah, I think the front three just picks itself because they're been the standouts this season, which is strange for a league like the Eredivisie. You think that the attack is an attacking league, but yeah, it's been.
I think they have
pretty
standout players though. I don't think it's because of lack of quality. I think they have genuinely been that good.
I think that these three are the main ones. Then Joachim Danielis showing Henk Veerman, no. Jesper Karlsson, probably not, but he's had a good season. Anthony, not consistent enough. I think today was his first goal since January.
Michael DeLeo.
Yeah, but then again, his form's kind of exploded 208 for Emin, really. So I think that those three are the standouts this season. Whereas Malin could have been if he'd been a bit more clinical, and Gakpo deserves some credit. But I think Gakpo is another player that's kind of exploded recently. I think he had a inconsistent start to the season. I think he's really only come into the Netherlands talk since he scored a hat-trick for the under-21s. But that's when everyone started to really take notice of him in Eindhoven. So yeah, I think that team of the season, I mean, our ones are pretty much the same, barring 1 or 2 positions.
Yeah, that's right. Final questions came in from Cam on Twitter about the Eredivisie. I guess, yeah. Let's get some predictions from you, Mike. This may already have happened when people listen to this, but who do you think will win the promotion playoff first of all? A few of the matches have already been played at the time of recording, but there's still some teams coming up from the Eredivisie. The teams still in there include NEC Nijmegen, Rode JC, Nat Breda, all teams that have played in the Eredivisie quite recently. And of course, Emmen will be playing Nat first of all. Who do you think is going to make it out of those 4? I think it's going to be Emmen. They've been playing incredible stuff for the past few months.
Yeah, I think Emmen going to look in a team in form with a goal scorer and Sergio Pena, who's in great form in midfield. So I think they've got enough of them to stay up. The teams I'd like to see NEC Nijmegen just because of the amount of talented young players that they've got. I'd like to see them come up just because I think it'd be interesting. And NAC Breda, them coming up would be...
The atmosphere. They've got such a great stadium and fans.
NAC Breda would be good as well, and it might convince Sidney van Hooijdonk to stay another year in Breda, and I'd like to see what he does in the Eredivisie and see if he can actually live up to his his talent to see what he can do in the top flight. But if Emmen stay up, I'm happy. If they had been the one that had gone automatically down and it was VVV that had made the playoffs, or out of Den Haag, I'd been hoping for Euros to go down and somebody fresh to come up. But if Emmen stay, I'd say good job to them. The way that they were looking at the turn of the year, they looked dead and buried. So yeah, if they stay up, I would say.
I agree with you. I think if they stay up, I'll be delighted. Whereas normally I'm like, get them down, get them.
Yeah, get somebody else up. But if they go down and NSA or NAC Breda come up, I'd be like, okay, that's fair enough. We'll see how they do next season. But no offense to Roda JC, but I don't want another sort of just cannon fodder team in the Eredivisie. So.
And most importantly, NAC Breda are most famous for their beer. They've got some great fans there, like I say. And Quentin as well said that Emmen or NAC will win it. I think so. I think the winner of that playoff time will win the final of it. And finally, European playoffs. Final against Sparta, Utrecht, Groningen. Who do you think is going to make it out of those four?
I mean, your head instantly goes Feyenoord. But I mean, I would quite like it if Feyenoord... No, I wouldn't like it. But I mean, I think I'd like it if Sparta did it, just because it'd be a romantic story for Sparta to beat Feyenoord and get up to the European places, and then we can see European football at Castile. But my other inkling is that depends on how Arjen Robben does for Groningen. If he has an influence in the games, he's getting rested to be fresh for that Utrecht game. If he's on fire, could he beat Utrecht? Probably. Could he then come up against Feyenoord and give him a good showing? Probably. I think Feyenoord are big favourites for it. I think that the pressure's all on them, and we'll see how they handle it. I don't know how bad Geertruider's injury is. I know he came off in the first half of today's game. That could be a bit of a blow for them. But if Feyenoord don't get a European spot, their fans are going to go absolutely ballistic. They already went and showed their dissatisfaction today. But if they don't make that European spot, then there's going to be hell to pay in Rotterdam for not sacking Dick Advocaat earlier. And then Arne Slot's going to have an even tougher job next season because the budget's going to be cut even more so if they don't make Europe. So I'd worry for them if they don't take that spot. But I'd love to see Groningen or Sparta take it. But any four teams, as long as they put in a good showing and get the coefficient up next year, then that's the main thing.
And don't get from Luxembourg.
Yeah. Which a team like Sparta is very possible. So in terms of coefficient, you'd say, okay, let's have Feyenoord in there, or if Groningen can convince Robben to stay on for another year, and just seeing him playing European football and Groningen would be a fantastic sight. But yeah, I think at Feyenoord it's theirs to lose, and if they lose it, it's going to be bedlam in Rotterdam.
I've got one more thing to talk about. I think that this is one for those people that know the Eredivisie quite well. It's one for the people that like Football-Oranje the most. True diehard fans who are still listening this stage of the podcast, right at the end, full hour. No matter which platform you're listening to, do get involved and comment. Who do you think might have been the worst players in the Eredivisie this season? I mean, for me, when I heard that question, the first thing I thought was most of the final front three. Lucas Prato, maybe?
Oh, he'd be up there with flop of the season for sure. He's taken a wage packet and he sat on that wage packet for
he's loved it.
6 months. Oh, yeah, he's having a great time. He's in the Netherlands. He's away from Argentina. He's having a great time. Worst players, wow. Jorgensen's been, again, it's Dick Advocaat that's come in and benched him. It's not his fault. If Jorgensen, he scored today. If Dick Advocaat thinks Brian Winston's a better striker than Nikolai Jorgensen, then that's not Jorgensen's fault. That's Dick Advocaat's strange mind. I think if you look at in terms of like flops of the season, then you got to look at AZ and say, is Boadu up there? You've got 2 goals today. but what do you expect from him?
I mean, he's not had a great season, no, but I wouldn't say he's been one of the worst players of the league this season. Or
Not one of the worst players in the league, but one that I expected big things from this season that hasn't lived up to those expectations would be Boadu, because I don't really want to go down the worst route, because then you're just looking at half the Den Haag team. But in terms of players that I expected huge things from at the start of the season that haven't lived up to it, you'd list Boadu, Stengs, and Ihataren, and they'd be the top three for me, the ones that I thought were going to absolutely explode this season, but I haven't. Same with possibly some of the Ajax youngsters that I expected to have a big. I mean, every year I do a sort of youngsters to watch article, and I was looking at Santia Hansen, Univar, Tabuni, Goodmine. I mean, I think I'm going to be naming Kenzo Goodmine as somebody that's going to break through for the next 4 years, and he's probably never going to do it. He seems to be one of those ones that's always on the cusp, but he's not actually getting any game time. But yeah, Feyenoord have been disappointing, and you got to look at Herenveen as well. The players that they have available to them, for them to finish down in 12th, 13th is a big disappointment. Joy Veerman's been one that has stood out, but I think they threw in the towel recently in the last few weeks. I think they've just given up on this season.
How about Cheryl Floranis, the right back? He's someone who just has not developed the past few years.
Yeah, it's crazy, and now he's not signing a new contract because he thinks he's going to get a move somewhere else. That's mental. And they're signed Van Uyk, who's an upgrade, so it's all upward there. Twente is another side that's just absolutely imploded under Ron Jans. And Oosterwolde is one of the players that we're putting forward as young player to watch at the start 6 months, but I've not really heard much of him for.
But centre backs, got no fit centre backs.
Yeah, Kik Pieri's another one that sort of went to Twente hoping to relight his career, but I don't think he's going back to Ajax looking like he's going to get anywhere near the first team. And same with somebody like even Perez right now. Every single week I get somebody commenting that Perez is Netherlands' next big centre back, and why is he not in the Netherlands squad? But Perez isn't even getting near the Ajax first team at the moment, so why would he be in the Netherlands squad when he's been replaced by Timber, and he made quite a few errors when he's been playing for Ajax. So yeah, there's been a lot of players this season that have failed to live up to expectations, but there's been, just on the other end, there's been enough players that have broke through and been outstanding. So it's the Eredivisie, it's leveled out with the top talents coming through, whereas some just haven't lived up to it. But my biggest disappointment would have been Ihataren. He's the one I tipped for massive things at the start of the season, and it's just all gone pear-shaped there. Whether that's just him falling out with Roger Schmidt, who knows? But we'll see what happens in the summer if he does get that move elsewhere, and see what happens with him next summer, because I don't believe that he's ill at the moment. I don't believe that the story that he's, because Roger Schmidt even said a couple of weeks ago that he was in training. So if he was ill, then he'd be playing. But yeah, he's heading out there as well. But I think if we want to end on players that are going to head for transfers this summer, then you look at PSV's big three: Ihataren, Malen, Dumfries, even Madueke. I think Schmidt even came out today and said Madueke didn't play today because he wasn't good enough in training. He doesn't think he's been playing well enough. So for somebody that's making moves and saying that he wants to leave, or say he will leave if he doesn't get game time, or there's another one that's going to leave PSV young. So yeah, I think we're heading for a big summer of transfers, because players might be moving this summer, so it's going to be another busy one for the Eredivisie.
That's right. Which is time for us to go. We've been talking for quite a while now, an hour, ticked up to. But thank everyone for listening, and do give us a like wherever you're listening to us. SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube. See if we can get us over 1,000 listeners again on our podcast this time. It's talking of transfers. We've got some things on the Football-Oranje YouTube channel at the moment. There's top 10 players ready to leave the Eredivisie. If you want to go and watch that, head over to the YouTube channel. We've also got a couple of interviews that we've just recently put out with Ajax goalkeeper Charlie Setford and Volendam's Mickey van der Ven. So we've got 2 big interviews with them if you want to go and check them out as well. And on the website, we've got an article up for Mike at the minute talking about the big decisions that Frank de Boer's got to make for his squad. We're going to have plenty more up there on all our platforms coming really, really soon. Just a final call, if you want to get yourself one, get yourself a Football-Oranje wristband in time for the tournament, Euro 2020 wristbands. So, time for us to go, and plenty more coming from us soon with Euro 2020 coming up. Big expectations for what the Netherlands can deliver. Can we all get carried away with excitement? Let us know in the comments. And of course, if you haven't already, comment below what you're thinking of the Euro 2020 squad and your Eredivisie team of the season. But from Mike and I, bye for now.
Goodbye.